On the second day of his visit to Bhutan, Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address students at the Royal University of Bhutan will also visit National Memorial Chorten. India and Bhutan signed several agreements in key areas. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates key hydropower and infrastructure projects, also opens RuPay card service in Bhutan. Restrictions being progressively eased in Jammu and Kashmir. Over 50,000 landlines activated. Prohibitory orders lifted from several police station areas. Schools to open on Monday. Vice President Venkaiah Naidu, who is on a three-nation tour to the Baltic region, holds delegation-level talks with the President of Lithuania. Vice President says all the nations must intensify collective efforts to eliminate terrorism and isolate nations which aid and abet terror. In international news, bomb explosion in a wedding hall in Afghan capital Kabul. Many casualties feared. In sports, Bajrang Punia and Deepa Malik nominated for Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award. 19 sportspersons including Ravindra Jadeja and Poonam Yadav selected for Arjuna Award. Hello and welcome to this edition of the news, and we begin the bulletin with news from the Prime Minister's visit to Bhutan. On the second day of his visit to Bhutan, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address students at the Royal University of Bhutan. Prime Minister Modi, who is on a two-day visit to Bhutan with the aim of strengthening the unique India-Bhutan relationship, will also visit the National Memorial Chorten. And on day one of his Bhutan visit, Prime Minister Modi held delegation-level talks with his Bhutanese counterpart, Lotay Tshering. Both leaders discussed steps to further expand their partnership across several sectors. Commemorating a path-breaking success story in bilateral relations, several MOUs were also exchanged.
This handshake says it all. The warmth between the land of the Thunder Dragon and her neighbor India clearly visible. Bhutanese Prime Minister Lotay Tshering received Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Paro airport. Then came the ceremonial guard of honor. On day one of his two-day visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held delegation-level talks with host PM Lotay Tshering at the Bhutan Parliament.
130 करोड़ भारतीयों के दिलों में भूटान एक विशेष स्थान रखता है। मेरे पिछले कार्यकाल के दौरान प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में मेरी पहली यात्रा, इसके लिए भूटान का चुनाव बहुत ही स्वाभाविक था। इस बार भी अपने दूसरे कार्यकाल के शुरू में ही भूटान आकर मैं बहुत खुश हूं। भारत और भूटान के संबंध दोनों देशों के लोगों की प्रगति, संपन्नता और सुरक्षा के साझा हितों पर आधारित है।
Prime Minister Lotay Tshering described the meeting as one between two old friends.
I had the privilege of sitting down with Modi ji for a meeting that was heartwarming and fruitful. I felt like I was having a conversation with a very close friend, a friend who cares, a friend who means a lot to us. From our conversation, His Excellency's focus on neighborhood-first policies.
After the meeting, both leaders proceeded to Simotka Zong. This nearly 4 centuries old fort monastery saw an intermingling of spirituality and diplomacy. It functions as a monastic and administrative center. For the first time ever, the historical monument acted as the venue where inauguration ceremony of several projects as well as MOUs exchange took place. In keeping with Buddhist tradition, PM Modi lit butter lamps and meditated before the statue of Lord Buddha before the ceremonies. PM Modi and PM Tshering jointly inaugurated 5 projects, beginning with the formal inauguration of the Mangde Chu hydroelectric power project. Mangde Chu is the most effective hydroelectric power project in South Asia. It has a 720 megawatt capacity across 4 units and has been constructed at a cost of Rs 512 crore. 3 out of the 4 units have already been commissioned. A power purchase agreement for sale and purchase of Mangde Chu power was also exchanged. PM Modi also launched a stamp commemorating 5 decades of Indo-Bhutan hydropower cooperation.
हाइड्रो पावर हमारे दोनों देशों के बीच सहयोग का महत्वपूर्ण क्षेत्र है। दोनों देशों ने मिलकर भूटान की नदियों की शक्ति को बिजली में ही नहीं, पारस्परिक समृद्धि में भी बदला है।
Both leaders then jointly inaugurated the ground situation for South Asian satellite. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also launched the RuPay card. He made a purchase with the card. He also inaugurated a direct link to aid communication and sharing of information between universities in India and Bhutan. Continuing financial support towards Bhutan's development, India announced an additional $100 million worth of currency swap.
सार्क करेंसी स्वैप फ्रेमवर्क के तहत भूटान के लिए करेंसी स्वैप की लिमिट बढ़ाने के लिए हमारा नजरिया पॉजिटिव है। इस बीच विदेशी मुद्रा की आवश्यकता को पूरा करने के लिए स्टैंड बाय स्वैप व्यवस्था के तहत अतिरिक्त $100 million भूटान को उपलब्ध होंगे।
9 MOUs were inked. These include one on aircraft accident and incident investigation, another between the National Legal Institute of Bhutan and the National Judicial Academy of India, between Jigme Singye Wangchuck School of Law and the National Law School of India University, Department of Information Technology and Telecom, Bhutan, and ISRO, National Knowledge Network of India and the Druk Research and Education Network, as well as the Royal University of Bhutan and 4 leading Indian universities. Bhutan ranks high on the World Happiness Index because of its close connect to nature as well as deep spirituality. Prime Minister sought blessings from monks at Simtoka Zong. The entire ceremony concluded with Prime Minister Modi planting a cypress sapling, the national tree of Bhutan. The symbolism was clear: 2 ancient and deeply spiritual lands coming together for common good. Vishal Barrister, Sudhakar Das and Neeraj Singh in Thimphu for DD India.
Prime Minister Modi also called on the King of Bhutan, His Majesty Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuck, on day 1 of his Bhutan visit. They exchanged views on strengthening the unique India-Bhutanese relationship. And joining us now is our correspondent Vishal Baristo from Thimphu for the latest from there. Vishal, a very good morning to you. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a number of very impactful interactions yesterday. Today too, he has a full itinerary. Take us through his agenda for the day.
A very good morning to you, Rukma. But before I answer a question, let me show you what the largest daily of Bhutan has to say now. I have a copy with me of Quinsale, and it shows how Bhutan is transforming. Now it's talking about the digital economy and also carries the message of the Indian Prime Minister. Bhutan is India's trusted friend and neighbor. There you can see this is the largest daily of Bhutan. And the editorial says that what are the takeaways from this visit. Now, in the editorial, it is written that it is not that Bhutan is increasing its dependence on India, but the close ties that both countries have been enjoying for decades are now going to be taken to new highs. Today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be visiting the Royal University of Bhutan at 9:50. Now, this is going to be an interesting, rather I would say the highlight of his visit, because apart from politics, diplomacy, business, it is going to be an interaction with the youth of Bhutan, and that is what the Prime Minister has been focusing on ever since he became the Prime Minister of India in 2014. It is the youth power, and he would be interacting with the students of the university, and that's going to be a very interesting pack. After that, he would be going to the memorial, that is also a monastery, and India and Bhutan have a spiritual heritage, both countries, because of the religion that Bhutan practices. So these are the interesting highlights. Yesterday, the Foreign Secretary, Mr. Gokhale, also informed the media that hydroelectricity has always been the strength of India, Bhutan, as far as the trade is concerned, as far as the technology is concerned. But now we want to take our enduring relationship to a new high, exploring new areas of aviation safety, of space research, of education, how the IITs of Kanpur, Bombay, and other national institutes would be having an MOU for Bhutan, so that the students of Bhutan get to know the latest technology. So these are the areas that both the countries are exploring. And also the economy plays a huge role. Yesterday, the first phase of RuPay was launched, and Prime Minister did some transaction swapping his card. So the next phase of RuPay is expected next year, when the Bank of Bhutan would also be having accepting the RuPay card, and then followed by Bhim app as well. So it has been a very productive visit of the Prime Minister, and as the Prime Minister said, you must be wondering why I came here. So let me tell you that in 2014 I had come, and in my second term I have given I give a lot of importance to Bhutan according to his neighborhood first policy. So it's going to be an interesting day today as well. And yesterday, when I spoke to the people of Bhutan, they were all very appreciative of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, his vision, and many were saying that he is a man who takes a good decision, tough decision in the interest of the country, which is very encouraging for other leaders, as well as he is making his mark not only in South Asia but also across the globe. Article 370 is also the talk of the town here in Bhutan, and they were saying desperate time, desperate measures, and they are all very appreciative of how Prime Minister is protective of his own country and is willing to go to any extent to defend his country, to defend the boundaries of his country, but at the same time extend a warm handshake to everyone, not only in the neighborhood, but every country that is interested in becoming friends with India.
Right, Vishal. Well, generations of Bhutanese, as you mentioned, have always looked to India as a source of inspiration, as a close friend. What about the youth today? How excited are they to listen to Prime Minister Narendra Modi speak?
Well, Rukma, if we talk about India, India is a young country with around 60% population below the age of 40, and also Bhutan is a very young country, and as you know that it is also known as the happiest country in the world, and the happiness lies in the heart, in the religion they practice. But at the same time, Bhutan also is exploring new ways to achieve greater heights. From the least developed country, it is now slowly moving to the middle income group, and that is why the youth has to play a big role. And as I have been interacting with the youth of the country, they were very excited to host the Indian Prime Minister, and at the same time they were also very excited that the first time the Indian Prime Minister would be interacting with the students of Royal University of Bhutan, and they were all looking forward to this opportunity, because politics and diplomacy apart, it is the robust people-to-people tie that India and Bhutan are focusing on, and students who are the youth power of the country play a major role in the development of any country. And when they have this opportunity, they are very happy, because I've been here for a few days and I've been talking to, especially to the youth, and they were saying the vision of the Indian Prime Minister encourages them. India and Bhutan have a long way to go, and they have also a long relationship. Students of Bhutan have been studying in India, but now under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they think that this relationship would be achieving greater heights. 2014 was the time when it started to take off, and in the second term, both the countries are planning to take development to new high. And when we talk about development, economical development, social development, the youth plays a big role, I would say the major role, because the elders can only guide, but it is the youth force that realizes the everything that is put on paper, realizes the dream of the country. And today is the day of the students of Royal University of Bhutan, and it was a very, very happy atmosphere when I visited them and when I spoke to them. So it's going to be a very interesting visit. The visit ends today, but ends on a very positive note, how to take both the countries to greater heights, how to explore more areas. As I told you, aviation safety, then the space research, education, medical and health. ISRO has been helping Bhutan for quite some time, especially as far as the warnings, weather warnings, then disaster management, communications. Here the satellite plays a major role. Medical facility. Bhutan is a landlocked state, and it needs this kind of technology, and India is helping it out. Bhutan also has its natural resources. Hydroelectricity is one, and India can also gain out of it, and that is why this agreement between the two countries, how India can also buy energy from Bhutan, because Bhutan has a lot of potential, but the technology plays a major role, and India is giving it technology. Bhutan can use its resources, and that's the way the both countries can benefit out of it.
Right. Vishal, thank you very much for joining us there and for those inputs. And back home in Jammu and Kashmir, restrictions on the movement of people were eased and landline phone services restored in areas of the Kashmir Valley on Saturday. Even as stringent security arrangements remained in place, restrictions have been relaxed in 35 police station areas of Kashmir, while 17 telephone exchanges out of 96 have been made functional. More than 50,000 landline phones are operational now. The services will be restored in other areas in a calibrated manner. Security forces continued to man barricades on roads but allowed people to move after checking their credentials. In Jammu region, restrictions have been eased in 5 more districts. The restrictions were eased in Kishtwar, Doda and Ramban districts in the Chenab Valley and border districts of Poonch and Rajouri in the Pir Panjal region on Saturday morning. Principal Secretary of Jammu and Kashmir, Rohit Kansal, said the educational institutions will be reopened from Monday. And Rama Tyagi joins us from Srinagar. Rama, very good morning to you. Give us the latest updates on the situation there in Srinagar and across the valley. What are your sources telling you? Because we believe that more restrictions are being eased out.
Yes, Rukma, situation is becoming better day by day, and as you know, from yesterday phone lines are being opened, and 23,000 landlines were open yesterday, and by today evening state administration is planning to open all the exchanges, and 17 exchanges were opened yesterday, and out of 76, and rest of the exchanges will be open today according to state administration. And if I tell you about the situation, people were coming smoothly on roads to do their work, to perform their duties, and all the government offices were open, medical facilities were there, essential stock are available according to state administration. So everything is put in place to facilitate the common man, and from some areas some restrictions were lifted up, but at some sensitive areas there are some restrictions, and state authorities are reviewing the situation, and accordingly they will remove the restrictions from there also. And from Monday schools are opening. In initial stage they will open the primary school, and after that they will review the situation, and they will move further. So we can say that the situation is becoming easier day by day, and today on 18th first batch of Hajis is returning back to Srinagar, and for that at airport special arrangements have been done by state administrations. Special buses are there, special passes have been issued, and nodal officers are there to facilitate Hajis also.
Right,
And Rukma, I want to tell you, many newspapers made it their headlines also. If I first I start from Kashmir Edge, it's written that in first headline that restrictions in some parts of Srinagar relaxed, landline services restored in central pockets, 17 telephone exchanges made operational. Apart from this, if I see Kashmir Images says that restrictions lifted from 35 police stations across valley, 17 telephone exchange functional, schools to open from Monday, and 2G mobile internet services restored in parts of Jammu. Apart from this, if we look at Kashmir Reader, then this paper says that restrictions lifted in parts of Kashmir, 23,000 phone lines restored, 190 Srinagar schools to resume classwork on Monday, DC Srinagar. So you can see that newspapers are also making it headline, and it's a big news for the valley and a great relief too.
Right, Rama, thank you so much for joining us there and for those updates. And moving on now, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu on Saturday held talks with the Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda and discussed important aspects of a bilateral relationship as well as global and regional issues of common interest. The Vice President, who is on a three-nation visit to the Baltic region, also briefed the Lithuanian President on the recent decision of the Indian government to abrogate Article 370 of the Constitution that conferred special status upon J&K. He also informed the Lithuanian President that more than 100 progressive legislations have now become applicable to the two union territories. They include reservation of seats for women in panchayats, implementing child protection programs, ensuring right to education for children, and protecting women from domestic violence. The Vice President is on a 5-day trip to Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia, the first ever high-level visit from India to the three Baltic countries. Union Minister for Environment and Forests Prakash Javadekar has said that coming together of basic countries Brazil, South Africa, India and China and putting views together is an important aspect of United Nations negotiations. Speaking at the 28th Basic Ministerial Meeting on Climate Change in Sao Paulo in Brazil, the Environment Minister said the basic group could play an important role in making the Paris Agreement acceptable by all the countries in its true letter and spirit. He added that basic countries would be united and speak in one voice, and the joint statement which was issued has highlighted all the issues which are relevant today. In international news, several people are feared dead in a suicide bomb blast that ripped through a wedding party on a busy Saturday night in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. More than 1,000 people had been invited for the wedding party. The attacker set off explosives among the wedding participants. No group has so far claimed responsibility. In sports, Paralympic silver medalist Deepa Malik was on Saturday nominated for the country's highest sporting honour, the Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award, along with Asian and Commonwealth Games champion wrestler Bajrang Punia. The name of 48-year-old Deepa, who won a silver in the shot put F53 category in the 2016 Rio Paralympics, was added for the Khel Ratna by a 12-member selection committee on the second day of the two-day meeting. World #1 wrestler in 65 kg, Punia was nominated also for the country's top award. The committee also picked 19 sportspersons for the Arjuna Award, including the likes of cricketers Ravindra Jadeja and Poonam Yadav, track and field stars Tejinder Pal Singh Toor, Mohammad Anas and Swapna Burman, footballer Gurpreet Singh Sandhu, hockey player Chinglin Sana Singh Kangujam and shooter Anjum Modgil. And that's all we have time for in this edition of the news. News and updates continue on DD News and DD India. Stay tuned. Namaskar.